So let's dive in. It is tax day. It's April 15th, the 113th year since the first income tax became law by our federal government. That was back in 1913. That started at 1% for incomes above certain thresholds. So it only applied to a very small number of people. And you know the rest of the script. It didn't quite stay there because you probably, like me, pay your federal income taxes every year, or if you get behind, you do them 2 or 3 years at a time. Uh, but here's Jason Mercier with Mountain States Policy Center with a bit of history about our federal income tax.
And so, see if these arguments sound familiar. We're going to impose a limited tax that's only going to impact about 2% of the population. It's going to be on millionaires, and you don't have to worry about this tax because you'll never pay it. Well, unfortunately, all of us today on April 15th owe federal income tax. Yet that was the exact promise made when Congress imposed the income tax back in 1913. After the 16th Amendment was ratified, Congress quickly followed up with what they called a millionaire's tax. It was estimated to only hit 2% of the population. Its rates ran between 1 to 7%. You fast forward to 2027, and this just proves what happens with income taxes. The rates increase, the brackets expand. So this limited millionaires tax passed in 1913, now all of us are subject to, and I would love a 7% rate, but the rates now are 10% to 37%. And this is probably the future that Washington is looking at if the Supreme Court doesn't do what every other court before it has done and strike down income taxes that don't conform with the property restrictions.
Now, when Governor Bob Ferguson signed SB 6346, our new millionaires tax, signed that into law just over 2 weeks ago, he was touting the benefits to the average Washingtonian who will get some money back. They're doing a pretty dramatic expansion of the working families tax credit as part of this redistribution of wealth. So here's what he said on the bill signing day.
Since I first announced my support for millionaires tax back in December, I made it clear that a substantial portion of these dollars must go back in the pockets of hardworking Washingtonians, small businesses, working families, to make life more affordable for them. What we do with this revenue matters. In the first full year of this revenue, when it comes in, more than 40% of the revenue will go directly back to Washingtonians. Let me give you 5 examples. Number 1, we expanded a wonderful program that we have in Washington State, thanks to our state legislature, the Working Families Tax Credit. Yeah. Fantastic program. This program, by the way, other states are starting to model this program, by the way. They see the success of this. This literally sends a check back to hardworking Washingtonians in the form of a check between $300 and $1,300, depending on the size of their family and their income. It's a great program. We just need to expand it. And with the revenue from the millionaires tax, we're adding 460,000 working families who receive that tax credit every single year. Number 2, funding for free breakfast and lunch for every K through 12 student in Washington State. This puts money back in the pockets of families and helps make sure that kids are ready to learn. Guess what? It's tough to learn on a hungry stomach, right? Yeah. This will help those kids all across our state. It's been a priority of mine since I ran for governor. I talked about my first stay of the state. It was the first bill I proposed as governor. And I just want to also recognize 2 folks who have been very involved in this legislation, this effort for a long time. State Senator Marcus Riccelli and State Representative April Berg. Give them a huge round of applause.
Now, critics, including many representatives of the small business community and their advocates, say it's really going to be more of a hit than a benefit to small business because of the way they structure their business and taxes. Most of them operate as pass-through entities, so business income is reported as personal income on federal taxes. So it might show that, your business brought in $1.3 million that year. That shows as personal income. Well, in fact, it's not that. Most of the time, that is going to be used for business reinvestment, potentially expanding business, hiring new employees, buying new equipment. So there's a big concern in the small business community about really there will be some B&O tax offset benefit here, but will it be enough to offset, the many numbers of folks who are concerned this is going to impact them. So again, Jason Mercier with Mountain States Policy Center believes the tax is unconstitutional. He believes it's eventually going to trickle down to each and every one of us. But he calls it pretty alarming that supporters, including the governor, know they've got all this court precedence that goes against an income tax. And the state constitution very clearly says that our income is our property.
This is the first time that the legislature and the governor have willfully and openly defied Supreme Court rulings to impose a tax on income. And how they expect the results to be differently is beyond me. I mean, you're basically asking five Supreme Court justices of the nine to say that Washingtonians don't own their income. Can that happen? It's possible. That's a pretty bold move for an elected Supreme Court justice to overturn 100 years of rulings and say, you know what, Washingtonians, we were just kidding. You don't, in fact, own your income.
Mercier did tell me that he does not hold out much hope that Let's Go Washington and founder Brian Haywood's attempt to get the state Supreme Court to allow a referendum on the income tax to proceed. He doesn't think it's going to be successful. He said that he bases that on the fact that the state Supreme Court has previously granted some pretty broad discretion for lawmakers to attach emergency clauses to legislation and have said in those prior rulings that, it's not our job to determine what's necessarily a budgetary emergency. That's what lawmakers are tasked with doing. And so he does not think that the challenge is going to be successful for a referendum, although Let's Go Washington is indicated to me that the plan is probably going to be for dual initiatives to the ballot this year, maybe one directly to the people and one that would go to the legislature. Again, that's going to take some time. It's going to take quite a bit of effort to get more than maybe 400,000 signatures, I think is what they would want to get on each of those. In order to, you're going to have some of those signatures that get tossed out by the Secretary of State. They're duplicative or whatever. So there's, still a lot of things that could potentially undo this income tax. We shall see. April 30th, by the way, set for those arguments of the state Supreme Court for Haywood's case on the referendum, if I forgot to mention that to you. And we'll certainly be in the courtroom and excited to bring you that update when it happens.